Good morning. It's Friday and it's early, it's 7:45, but I thought I'd start the Zoom now and do the recording because usually it's just me here by myself. So this Zoom um, Tech Connect Zoom lecture discussion was intended to not only go over what's happening in the course, but also to discuss with any student any questions they may have. But Um, for those that still want to Zoom with me to go over their essay, for example, you can just reach out to me and I'll send you a Zoom link and we can do it that way. But all right, moving on. So I think this is the end of week 9. Let me look at where we're at now. Yeah, week 9 is ending. So last week you had your peer review that seemed to be pretty good. Try to be as critical and as analytical as you can when you read another essay. That's very helpful. It's not only going to improve your reading skills, but also it'll help your writing as a result. And I'll get your essay 4 graded in the next couple of days. One student didn't ask about some examples of a compare contrast essay. And looking at the modules, I thought I put something in the very beginning of the course where you had sample essays, sample essays here. And there should be process essay, illustration, description, definition, narrative, cause and effect. So let's go back, see if there's other sample essays. I thought the compare contrast essay was in the very beginning. Lowell Norton Reader essays. Okay, so it is not there. Um, okay, so I'll go into Google. I don't want to go into past essays because a student's name may be there, and I don't want to reveal them. So in a compare contrast, let's stop share, reshare again. I kind of went over it in the Zooms, but maybe okay. So I talked about the Venn diagram. So this is where you're looking at similarities and differences, and the center part is what they have in common. You have your same kind of thesis statement where you have the problem, you have reaction by credible sources, and then you have your opinion on what you're going to argue in the essay. Um, you have the outline, you have a draft, revise. So it's still sort of the same thing. There are a couple of different ways of doing a compare contrast essay. Um, and I think I went over this in a Zoom. You can toggle back and forth, one paragraph, one essay, one paragraph, the other essay. Sometimes that's a challenge that the reader may get dizzy, so to speak, bouncing between one essay and the other essay and your analysis. You could do half of your essay on one text that you're analyzing, and then the other essay. I will, I will look at an example by Toni Morrison. Let's see if it's in I think I have it saved here in files. Her master's thesis examines, I think I have it here, don't I? Toni Morrison. Um, yeah, here it is. Okay, so let's see if I can make this larger. Um, it's a copy of a typed, so the font is not as bold as it could be. Now it's longer, right? It's 45, 50 pages long, so it's a little different than your essays. But the concepts, let me stop share, reshare again. Okay, so we're back here. So the concepts of the rhetorical preces, the concepts that I have in the outline template you're working with, still apply. The elements of writing that you learn in the writer's reference textbook still applies. So we have in this introductory paragraph, think about the hook, think about the background information, the context that the reader needs to have before you can get into the argument, and then you have the thesis statement. So those elements still apply. At this time, when it was published, titles were underlined, published titles were underlined. So you have The Lonely Crowd, The Age of Anxiety, and No Exit. That's part of the context. So those are published books. Let's take a look at the opening sentence. As each age invariably does, the 20th century has manifested several convictions in its literature, which are peculiar to the times. That's meant to bring the reader in. That could be called a hook, I guess. The several, this is the pivot, and you can have it in your essay. Your rhetorical preces has it also, this sort of transition word or phrase. And this example, Toni Morrison uses of the several as the transition phrase. You can use however, you can use yet, although, to move from sort of a broad into more specific analysis. One is predominant enough to contribute substantially to a definition of this century. Okay. It can be inferred from contemporary literature that a great part of the uniqueness of our time has its roots in the widespread concept of man as a thing apart, as an individual who, if not lost, is impressively alone. Look back at your rhetorical preces examples. This is following that almost exactly. Descriptive phrases like the lost generation and titles such as the lonely crowd, the age of anxiety, and no exit are representative of a host of works in which 20th century man's isolation is examined. That authors agree alienation is a predominant characteristic of this age, as seen by their repeated use of it as a theme, motivating agent, or character trait in so many fields of literature endeavor, and indicates to what extent this subject has become a defining element in our time. The characters created by Thomas Wolfe, more context, right? More of the environment that this essay by Toni Morrison is going to be looking at certain texts. Okay, the characters created by Thomas Wolfe, author, T.S. Eliot, author and poet, Aldous Huxley, author, James Joyce, author, and Ernest Hemingway, author, to mention a few, evokes images of solitary, alienated people who together form a community of the isolated. Nathan A. Scott Jr., author, has clearly demonstrated the impact this condition has had on contemporary authors in his book, Rehearsals of Discomposure, More Context. He asserts that literature, since Edgar Allan Poe, has been increasingly, quote, symptomatic ellipses of a state of tragic disorientation and breakdown within the structure of modern civilization, end quote. And then you have a footnote. That's a good example of integrating with analysis and context. Okay, contemporary more. This is a bigger piece, so your thesis state will be coming up. There's more of the analysis of what's setting up the argument. Okay, here's Virginia Woolf and William Faulkner, compare, contrast. It's a little bigger, it's a 50-page essay. So it's a little bigger example of the compare, contrast, but this is one. So these two authors, Virginia Woolf and William Faulkner, are going to be compared, have been greatly interested in these questions, and have used the problem of alienation as a focal point and a major part of their work. In answering these questions, they represent diverse opinions. So here you have Virginia Woolf and what she's saying. Then you have William Faulkner going one paragraph to another paragraph in the very beginning. Okay. Mrs. Dalloway is a character in Virginia Woolf. And then we get into it. So I will save this as a file And I will upload it into modules for those that want to look at a published, somewhat bigger example of a compare contrast essay. So let's stop share this. I'll go back to the home page where where are we here? Now stop share there. Let's go, say get back to the modules. Okay, so I will upload this. I'll make a page of this. Okay, so that's a PDF. Save and publish this, and I'll add it to the modules. Okay, so there it is. There's Toni Morrison's compare contrast example, how she did it in her master's thesis years ago. She's a great writer. Anyway, moving on. So end of week 9, we'll get a proposal on your next assignment. We're using 1984 along with essays from the Low Norton Reader. And we'll be looking at one central argument or theme that you can sort of see in both 1984 and some of the essays that you've read from the Low Norton Reader. Your choice on what that theme is or that argument is. I want you to do your own analysis because you're going to have your own perspective on these texts and what they're trying to argue. Part of the context is our own, is our gender. Part of our context is our age. Part of our context is what we've learned over the years. Part of the context is what kind of job we have. Part of the context is what we're interested in examining, what we find interesting in literature. So I want you to choose what that argument or theme is that you're looking at in Essay 5. The weekly check-in, discussion board, and that's pretty much it. Next week, here's material 84. Next week is week 10. We'll have a Net Tutor tab. Try to revise your essay through or with Net Tutor as often as you can. It's invaluable. It's really going to help your writing to revise and rewrite. The same thing goes with your outline. One student asked about the outline, what changes? Well, hopefully your outline will change as you have finished writing your essay. In the beginning, the outline is sort of like a map. It's a guide that your destination is to reach a certain point, and that's what your thesis statement is arguing. But in the process of doing that, you'll discover that you need to rearrange either the order or what paragraphs need to be included. Maybe you want to add another paragraph or remove one because you found in the writing of your essay that one subtopic doesn't make as much sense as it did when you first thought about writing the essay. So the revised outline is your reflection, or it's revealing or showing your reflection on what you noticed you changed in your essay. So the reversed outline is showing what really did happen. Okay, so week 10, chapter 2, rhetorical précis from the 1984 novel. It's an easy read, I think. It's pretty quick. It's very literal, superficial, although it has a lot of subtext to it, which makes it dynamic. The symbol tracker is just identifying one symbol in each chapter, a quote that goes along with it, the character who spoke it or heard it, the reaction to that quote, that symbol, and how it relates to the main theme of the novel. This is going to give you a bank of information you can use in writing essays 5 and 6. So I have a draft and an outline, weekly check-in, and then I'll need to add week 11. I'll do that probably this weekend. Anyway, so that kind of concludes where we're at now. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'll respond within a few hours, if not by the next day. If you leave a comment in the weekly check-in, I try to look at it on a Monday, but this week I was running behind, so I didn't look at it till just now. So if you have a question about something that has a time frame to it, send me a message. I'll respond much faster. Anyway, thanks so much. Take care and have a great day. Oh, hope you enjoy the artwork by the grandkids. Okay, see you later.